I became a part of Petaluma Blacks for community development right away. Gloria mentioned it to me. She said, this is what I'd like to do. This has been a dream of mine. And the fact that she knew so many people was really exciting for me, and I thought, okay, let's do this. And so we decided, on a date that we would have. In fact, she really arranged the first meeting that we had, and that was actually in 1977, I think, where she brought in people from the NAACP, there was a Black women's group. There were other groups that were here in Sonoma County. And so we had a meeting with them, and they were the ones who encouraged us to start our own group.
The reason I started doing the Black History program and stuff, the first one was at my kids' elementary school. This was elementary. I got as I said, I joined the PTA, and I got very close with the principal. And, I saw we weren't doing nothing in February, and I talked to her about, having a program there. Well, the first one I did was at Bernard Eldridge School. It wasn't even in February. It wound up being in March, because after February had passed, and I saw nothing had happened. That made me, talk to the principal about doing the program.
So I moved to Petaluma in 1975 with my parents, Warren and Faith Ross. We came from Oakland, California to Petaluma, and it's a different world than where I had been from. Very quickly, my mother had met Miss Gloria Robinson, I believe in a grocery store, and they had talked about getting an organization together, and that's where Petaluma Blacks for Community Development was born from.
Being a white person, obviously, there are many things I haven't personally experienced. Racism, bias, I have grown up with white privilege, so there are many things that I would not be able to necessarily recognize for my child or know how to teach them tools to handle. And so one of the things we really took to heart before we even knew we were going to have an African American child was to look at what our community offered in terms of support for children of various races. And that was when we started looking at what community groups are out there. And once we did adopt our child, she did happen to be Black. And so we then began to reach out to our community and look for groups that were already doing things where we could meet other people who would share our child's race and culture. Living in Sonoma County, it's not a very diverse community. At times, there's not a lot of African Americans here, and so we knew we need to really look for an intentional community to build for our family, because our children may not see a reflection of themselves in our community just, out and about. And so we, I think I found a flyer for Petaluma Blacks for Community Development, and that they were having their Black History celebration. And so I called Faith or Gloria, I'm not sure which person I talked to first, and asked if we could come. And they were very open and welcome, and we came to the Black History celebration when my daughter was 6 months old. And as soon as I walked into that group and saw everybody there and was welcomed by Faith and Gloria and all of the founding members, I knew that we'd found a place that would support our family and help us to raise our children the way that we wanted to.
I became part of the program because I went to Community Baptist Church, and that was where I was surrounded by a lot of influential Black people. I went to school in Petaluma, and I was usually the only Black kid, and I felt like there wasn't much that I could do personally, or I didn't feel like my voice was really heard in most things. So when I went to church and I saw that there was a lot of people who were doing things in the community and looked like me, I decided that I wanted to be a part of it too.
I remember as a child we had tutoring programs on Saturday mornings. We would have trips to the Christmas tree farm. I remember the contest to see who got the first tree and who had the last tree, who had the biggest tree. And then we would go out to the apple farm out in Sebastopol and have a picnic out there. And it didn't really matter what the weather was like, we were still gonna meet out there. And then I even remember after that, it was party time. They would have a party afterward at somebody's house. They would all meet and have a party, and we just made an event. And I just remember as a child that was just part of the community of the Petaluma Blacks for Community Development and what we did and how they stuck together. We also had the Black History programs. I remember all the way back to the Five Corners Community Center, having the programs there, and how exciting it would be as a kid that day getting ready for the program. And I remember my mom always putting out a suit or something for me and my brother to wear. We always had to match. And I just remember those as just really good times, our picnics that we would have in the summertime over at McNair Park, and I still believe they still to this day do it yearly over at McNair Park.
The reason it was important to share the Black experience is because it wasn't being taught in schools. There was nothing happening in the community. And I wanted them to know that we had a lot of Blacks that did inventions and various things, and no one knew it. As a matter of fact, being a part of Petaluma Blacks taught me a lot of my own history, which we never got.
I became a part of Petaluma Blacks for Community Development because I really valued their mission of sharing Black culture with Sonoma County. I felt that it was very valuable for people in this community to better understand other cultures, and particularly benefited my family also, because not only would that be helping people to better understand my children's culture, but also was a chance for me to learn in a very genuine way, and to really build relationships with people who are willing to share that information with me. There's many things that obviously I would not know about growing up in a Black family or growing up in Black culture that my children really need to know, and will help them in the world to be able to have that information and to have that experience. And so that was one of the main reasons I joined. I also felt that it was a wonderful way to make friends, and I just love the people who were in the group. So I wanted to be a part of a group that was doing great work and was filled with really friendly and caring people.
What we try to do is really to share that history and that culture with the community. That means that we bring in people from other areas, but that real connection is that we're sharing history with them. We've expanded ourselves from not just our Black History program, but also having a jazz concert, having the exhibit at the museum, and through the exhibit we've gone through back to in the 1800s when Blacks were initially in Petaluma. We've actually looked at some of that history. So it hasn't changed, we've just expanded on it, I think.